Okay, so we're reading today. The topic is day-to-day spiritual living. Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov Tzavas Avrivash. We're going to see a bunch of portions from him. The Baal Shem Tov is the founder of a Hasidic movement. We're going to see some ideas from him, some practical ideas. We'll try to keep it. We'll try to keep it simple. It is simple, and we're going to get into it. Okay, my friends. As always, feel free at any time. Thoughts, questions, ideas, whatever you'd like. Please feel free to put it out there. And of course, and as always, if you're feeling like you have a question, but you're feeling a little bit reserved, held back, insecure, self-conscious, this is what the wine is here for. There you go. This guy remembers. Yeah. He remembers. So
this is a good idea.
Here we go. Okay. So again, we're going to read over this Hebrew. I'll translate it into English, and so if you're not good with the Hebrew, you'll be just fine. All right. Here we go. It says like this: Yochaz b'midat zrizut ma'od. That a person should grab onto the midah, the characteristic of zrizut. Zrizut means to be enthusiastic, right? To do things the first opportunity you have to do them, right? To jump at things, not to be lazy, not to procrastinate. Yakum b'zrizut mishenato. Get up, arise from with enthusiasm and with passion from one's sleep. And listen to what he says here. Ki nitchadesh v'na'aseh adam achar v'hu ra'oi laholid v'na'aseh shalom shalom v'na'aseh b'midah kadosh baruch hu shalolid olamot. Because a person is renewed and a person is made. The way a person's going, when a new day starts, when a person's awaking from his sleep, there's a level of rebirth going on there. Right, there's a level of a new awakening going on there, a new day. God, right, like we say in the morning, we thank God for creating us or bringing our soul back into our body. Right, so it's a new life for us to a certain extent. Right, and so similarly, not only is it talking about when we wake up in the morning, but really anything that we do should be something that's done with enthusiasm, something that's done with passion, right? And part of that has to do with the fact, if we can get religious for just a second, is that because with everything that I'm involved with, I can be doing it in a way where I'm attaching it to its source, attaching it to its purpose, attaching it to my relationship with God, or being involved with something good. On the one hand, it's good to be involved with something that's good. It's also, on another hand, it's good to be attached that also to the source of all good, capital S. So this is something that's good for us to roll with in our life, because also we find that the way we wake up, it also says it now, and they're finding brain research on this, and all the self-help gurus have been saying this for a little while too, that the way you wake up in the morning affects the rest of your day. The way you wake up in the morning affects the rest of your day, right? So that means to say, when you wake up in the morning, that's why there are some people who say, get a separate alarm clock. People who are involved in success and getting people to do things and move in their life, etc. Say, get a separate alarm clock. Don't set the alarm on your phone. Why? Because from your phone, it's a very short little tap away from getting sucked into all the different things that are going on in the world already, and you haven't even gotten out of bed yet. Right, so you're sucked into the latest CNN update. The first thing you're seeing, you wake up in the morning, Trump tweeted this. You know what I mean? So it's okay, who wants to start their day with the politics? Who wants to start the day also, by the way, with the email? Right, person gets a stressful email. Now they're starting their day with the energy of stress, of being concerned. They can't even have a free minute. Right, famous success guru named Tim Ferriss. Maybe some people have heard of him. He's very what's it called? A 4-hour work week. He's very well known. He says, don't check your email till 11 a.m. Why? Because he says the first couple of hours in the day, there's a certain energy that a person has, that their creative energy is there in the day. So you're going to start going into responding to people's emails and this and that. You just wasted some of the purest creative energy you're going to have in the day. You squandered it on something else. So better idea is to go ahead and start your day with creative energy, do something, right? Of course, in Judaism, we start our day, before we get to the physical, we want to prioritize the spiritual, so we start the day with some communication with God, some Torah learning, and then food, and then maybe other things work or whatever. But the point is to understand that this is how the world's working. We see that Baal Shem Tov is teaching us this idea long before there was such a thing called the self-help gurus, long before there was this brain research that's telling us this.
How long
Right? He's from the late 1700s. Okay? So
you mentioned something about this like rebirth, reborn. I did.
yes, when a person, right, so when right, so because when a person's awakening, he's reborn and he's creating anew, right? So just like God's creating the world, you're now waking up and you're creating your world, right? You're creating your world. A lot of times in Kabbalah, the concept of a world on one level also means perception, right? Your realm of perception, how you're looking at things, right? So there's the world as it is, and then there's also your relationship to it, right? Your perception of it. So this is what he's saying. So go into it with enthusiasm, go into it with passion, right? This is also, by the way, we saw a couple of weeks ago when we were looking at other teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, how he's speaking about. Actually, we mentioned a teaching in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Jewish Book of Law, that the first thing that it says is to wake up like a lion, right? Like wake up like a lion. That you should wake up with the passion. That the morning shouldn't wake you up. You should wake the morning up. Is the way some people say it. So, right. So there is this idea to kind of take ownership of yourself, to have a certain level of enthusiasm, to have a certain level of passion, right, and to be as much as we can self-motivated. And of course, when you take motivation from other places, that's great, right? If that's going to help you, so fine. So push the play button on that something in the morning, but without getting into all this other stuff, right? Okay. Next little section here, Chaf Bet. Last one was Chaf, now we're on Chaf Bet. V'kol ma sheroeh yizkor b'Kadosh Baruch Hu im ava yizkor b'avat Hashem v'im yira yizkor b'yirat Hashem. Okay, so this is another idea that actually we could spend the whole time on this. Hasidic time. Okay. So
Anybody else want to pen?
So he says like this, and this is a deep one. This one might be a little bit advanced for right now. I don't know how much time we'll spend on it, but there is an idea that that whatever we are experiencing, attach it to the source of that thing. Let's understand what that means, right? So he gives the simple, the grand general examples of Ahavat Hashem. Okay. And you know, by the way, Facebook Live always puts on, as afterwards, when you post the thing, it always puts on the frame with the most action. So it's usually like that right now. It's trying to grab the thing. So you know, like that picture is going to be on there when I post it. So here's what it is. So anyway, fine. So he says like this. So when we see when we're experiencing an emotion or when we're experiencing some kind of trait, right, attach it to its source. Meaning to say, in the way this world works, the Kabbalistic take on this world, right, is that the word Kabbalah is from the Hebrew word makbil, which means parallel, because everything here in this physical world is a parallel to a deeper spiritual reality. And so that means that when we see, so what he's saying is, so for example, we talk about like in this world relationships, right? So we have interpersonal relationships, so we can understand, especially a relationship between a child, the parent, or spouses, is a parallel of our relationship with the infinite. And so that's why we can learn a lot out about our relationship with the infinite, if we understand true principles about how relationships work in the finite, right? So similarly, also what we're saying is that when we are experiencing a sense of love, or we are experiencing a sense of awe, we should recognize that really that is a lower manifestation of the higher level of love, or the higher level of awe, which is to have that in terms of connection with the one above, right? With God, with the infinite. And so what he's saying is that one way to spiritually elevate yourself is to align when a person's experiencing it here in the world, to align that and attach that, so to speak, in your mind and in your heart to God, or to the infinite, or to your relationship with the infinite. So, for example, if a person's scared of like a wild dog or something like that, so a person can do internal work in order to recognize that whatever taken abackness a person feels from that experience, to recognize that that's merely a branch and a what's it called? There's something that's like a shoot off of the true sense of awe, or that true sense of woe, which is that experience that a person would have if they come in contact with God, right? And let's just be clear when we're talking about God, because a lot of people have God baggage, right? A lot of people God baggage. I'm afraid to use the word even God. I've used the word infinite a lot. Firstly, it's more descriptive and it's really more accurate probably, and hopefully it bypasses for a lot of people the God word. But let's understand that what we're talking about is not like, oh, I'm afraid that someone's going to come down and put the smack down on me. Right? That's not what we're talking about here necessarily. What we're really talking about is a certain sense of awe, a certain sense of not necessarily even of fear, which is sometimes how people translate it, but much more of awe. So, for example, if a person has a situation where they saw their idol, so they might be like awestruck, you know what I mean? So there's a reason we call those idols. Because, again, that feeling that a person's having is a branch, a flavor of the true feeling of what awe should be when we truly are in awe of the one we should be in awe of. You understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Right? So love is also the same thing. Love is also the same thing, right? The way the Rambam, Maimonides, talks about love, of having a love of God, right? Having a love relationship with the infinite, is that something that's totally occupying your mind, and you want to be something in connection with it, right? Okay, this takes work, obviously, to get to such a level, but we can understand there that it exists as an ideal, right? Yes, you may. You just did. You can ask another one, too.
Thank you. And if a person feels
I have a lot of lines. Keep coming back. You'll learn them by heart. Go ahead. Sorry
taken
for
aback from seeing a dog, stray dog or something
Yeah.
like that, is that something, it's like an awe-inspiring feeling, not really a positive one.
Not
Should
a positive
someone,
one.
like, work to overcome that? Or is it just like an observation of, whoa, this is amazing?
There is an idea to try to work to overcome it. There is an idea to work to overcome it, but that's already a whole process of recognizing that really God's the one running the show, and there's no way that the dog can do anything to you without that will behind it, so to speak, right?
So, like, all fears should be overcome except of the,
There is such an ideal. Do people, at least theoretically, there's such an ideal. Do people have the capacity to do that? So some idealists will say yes. I don't know. Some people will be upset at me if I say yes, but that doesn't necessarily make it not true. But I don't know. I don't know. But there certainly, if you look into some of these books, they do talk about that, and it has to do with a certain level of internalization of the reality that really God's running the show, and everything that happens is from the infinite and for the best. By the way, when I say God or infinite, it means the same thing. I use it interchangeably. So there is that reality. There is that reality because, but when a person gets that level, so then that's when we talk about the Jewish concepts being not just philosophy, not just theory, not just I went to university and I did a class on religion and they gave me a little certificate I put on my wall. Look, a master of Jewish philosophy. And meanwhile, you haven't started any work on actually taking it into your life in a real way, right? So then what is it worth? It's worth a little, how much does that paper cost? $100,000 or so, right? But that's about, well, it's not really worth anything. But, that's the difference between the professor and the practitioner, right? We want to be the practitioner. We don't, the professor is very nice. You can have some information. You read a textbook, right? But like, until you stepped into it, to a place where it's like, oh, there's something real here, and you start to make moves in your life, in your heart, in your characteristics, in how you relate to other people, based on this information, based on these realities, based on these truths, so you haven't even started yet, right? So that's the difference between a person who's learning on externally versus someone who's a Baal Avoda, someone who's a person who is involved in personal work and personal growth in a real way. That means that like you recognize certain truths and certain realities, and then based on that you actually live a different way, right? So that means you catch yourself doing things, right? So it's like okay, I recognize reality of God or Torah or Judaism or whatever it is, and like, okay, so maybe I really shouldn't talk trash about my friend or this person who I know when they turn around and walk the other way. Maybe I shouldn't talk trash about them behind their back, right? So that means next time, this is something that you might be addicted to doing, and it's like when people realize, like, oh, I'm not supposed to talk about people in Judaism, it's like, wait, what am I going to talk about, right? That's a lot of people's reaction. But what that means then is like, okay, so next time you start talking about it because that's what you're used to, and then you catch yourself after 5 seconds, 5 minutes, whatever it is, and then you say, oh wait, you know what? I'm going to withdraw from that conversation, right? And so the more we do that, the more we build up that muscle, the more we build up that consciousness, and then next time we do it 3 minutes, and then next time we fall and we forget, and the next time after that we do 10 minutes, whatever it is. But like that, you're in the game now. We're being conscious. We're working on it. This is something we're moving towards, and we're not just talking about it. We're not just thinking about it. We're not just quote unquote trying, right? In hypnosis, they say if you want someone to not do something, tell them to try to do it, because try means you're not doing it. That make sense? And say, try to lift this thing, right? And they say, oh look, your hand's stuck to the thing, right? That's try means you're not doing it, right? So we're doing it. We're in the process. We're making real moves, right? And everything works this way. It's not going to be all at once. The change isn't going to happen all at once. If you decide, hey, wait, I should be a weightlifter. You're right. Okay, I'm a weightlifter now. Give him 400 pounds. That's not going to work. So find the reality of where you're at, and then do a little bit more than that. Stretch yourself a little bit. You're comfortable. It's easy for you. 100 pounds. Okay, 110. Where it's difficult, but you can do it. But it's difficult, but you can do it. And then after, if you're actually pushing and you're doing, you have a proper strategy and you're doing, whatever it is, a couple times, 4 times a week, whatever it is. And in a month, the 110 is going to be comfortable. Now you can move on to 120, right? But that's how growth happens, right? So it has to be conscious, has to be constantly coming back to it and making it part of our life. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. He says a bunch of other funky stuff. Let's skip it now. Let's go to the next one. Chav Hey. This is where he says the thing I was saying before. He says like this, Zehu klal gadol. This is a grand general principle. Va'ota machshava she'etchil ba k'shekam mimitato yelech ba kol hayom. With the thought that a person woke up with in the morning, he's going to go with that thought his entire day. And not with a different thought, right? So that's what we were saying before. And so what is the Jewish perspective about how to wake up? We wake up with gratitude, right? We wake up with gratitude. The first thing we say, the first word out of the Jew's mouth in the morning is the word modeh. Modeh means thankfulness, to be thankful. Come on in, join the party. So to be thankful, right? Modeh means to be thankful. By the way, interestingly enough, there's an idea that this is an essence of the Jew to a certain extent. Because how do you say Jew in Hebrew? Yehudi. Yehudi is from the word, the name Yehuda, which comes from the word modeh, to thank. Right? So the essence of the Jew is it's not just to be thankful, it's also to recognize. It's also to recognize, to admit, meaning to say, to recognize that there's something that's higher, right? A lot of people say, hey, it's my life, I can do what I want. It's like, really? Okay, it's your life? Okay, here's what we should do. Go ahead, shut off your heart for 5 minutes, and then turn it on in 5 minutes. It's your life. Go ahead, let's try.
It's tough.
Okay, so fine. So maybe it's not your life, right? I took that one from Rabbi Aaron. It's a good line, though. Anyway, David Aaron lives here in the Old City. So, right, but the point is that really, you're not even in control of your on-off switch, right? So, right, the car that my kid does with the what's those things called? Remote control, whatever. Yeah, the remote control car that my kid has that drives around on the floor, right? So the remote control car, he might think, if he had self-awareness, he might think he's his own person. He's his own entity, right? But he can't. But it's my little 4-year-old that turns the button from off to on or on to off, right? So it belongs to my 4-year-old boy, and he didn't have it without me, so I guess it belongs to me. And I never okay, fine. So anyway, so this is the idea. So we're supposed to wake up with a certain clarity and with a certain level of gratefulness, of thankfulness, and of recognition that there's something beyond us. Right? Modeh ani lefanecha. That's how we say in the morning. Modeh ani lefanecha. We say that we're thanking God that we have another day. That we have another day. Okay, cool. Other people thank for other things. All right. So kishakam bechatzot. laila vinofel alav sheina yelech lakan ulakan babayit. Listen to this. Listen to what he says here. That there's an idea, there's a Jewish idea, okay, and this is practiced by some of the Kabbalists, okay, to wake up in the morning actually at midnight. Right? Okay, or at least early. By the way, remember we said before, just
midnight.
yeah, midnight. That's the beginning of the day.
Sleep.
Go to sleep at whenever it gets dark. Tomorrow, go to sleep.
Sleep for 4 hours.
And it depends what season it is, but yeah, 4 hours. Yeah, I mean it's also good. Well, listen, he's going to say you can also sleep an hour throughout an hour or two in the daytime as well. But there's an idea. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. There's a whole section I cut out about that because I didn't want to go there. But there was a point that I did want to make, right? Which was, there is a whole practice with this concept of what's called tikkun chatzot and the Kabbalists. I don't want to go there right now. But I didn't say anything about what I do or don't do. Okay? So when a person wakes up at that time, but it's tough for him, right? The guy's struggling to stay awake because that's also a great time, according to all the sources, in particular to be focused in on the study of Kabbalah is in that time, in the early morning hours. Okay. By the way, maybe something to do with what we were talking about before. Those are most creative hours. Perhaps that's the idea of expansiveness. That is the time when that first part of the day is that time when it's going from darkness to light. There's something to that. Okay. But anyway, a person is falling asleep, right? Person's struggling to stay awake. So what does he say? He says very simple. Yelech lakan ulakan babayit. The person should just get up, move around, walk around, jump around. By the way, ever see in these Jewish schools, there's something called a stender. Anyone know what I'm talking about? A stender, right? So that a stender is perfect for if you're ADD. This is the way to go, because it's something that it stands on two legs. Okay, and it has this thing on top. So you can sit with it, you can stand up, you can lean it back, you can push it forward, you can move around, you can stand up. So you find that it's not like if you go to a Jewish school or like yeshiva, so it's not like a library, right? It's quite the opposite. There's you hear like a roar of people talking in the background, a roar of people yelling in the background, and what that means is that there's a certain life there, and you can get up, you can jump around. If you're falling asleep, stand up in the middle of a class, right? So anyway, the point is there's a certain awakeness, right? There's a certain awakeness that we need to have in our day and in our life, right? V'yashir, here he adds even v'yashir b'shirot v'tishbachot, right? So a person struggling to fall asleep, so stand up, jump around, sing songs, do what you got to do, right? V'yagbia kolo k'dei la'azir me'alav hashena. And a person should even sing really loud in order to just get rid of the sleep, right? So he's giving you some practical strategies, and you see that this kind of stuff that's very practical exists within Judaism and within Jewish practice, right? If we're going to be growing, a lot of times if we're going to be growing, so depending on the situation, the ends don't always justify the means. But there are definitely times where ends justify the means, right? You can be involved in all sorts of things in order to become healthy, in order to become awake, in order to grow, right? Okay, and he says, and you listen to this also. He says, "Yalmod harbe shiurim," Yalmod harbe inyanim. Learn a lot of different topics, a lot of different subjects, a lot of different types of books. V'lo hakol b'inyan achad, not everything, not just learning one thing the whole time. Sheyehei nireh alav k'masoy, because when we're learning the same thing all the time, a lot of times for us that becomes like a burden on our shoulders. It becomes difficult for us. So instead, rak yilmod harbe inyanim. Rather, a person should learn different types of subjects, different topics. In order, why? And so this helps us to get rid of the shena, to get rid of the sleep. And in modern terms, they would say that by learning different things, it uses different parts of your brain, right? Learning Gemara versus learning Chumash or Tanakh is going to use a different part of your brain, right? Certainly, right? For Gemara is all about, Talmud is all about analysis, right? Whereas something like certainly Kabbalah or something like that is more about, as opposed to Talmud, which is all about breaking things down and compartmentalizing things. Whereas Kabbalah, for example, is all about the grander unification from all the parts. So, anyway, so we're seeing here practical strategies that also we can apply in primarily, he's obviously talking about Jewish part of our lives, but also in other areas of our lives as well, about proactivity, about emphasizing what's important, about attaching things to to our purpose and our ultimate goal, right? And this also helps us to find meaningfulness in life as well, right? And it helps us to find joy in life as well. Because when we can find what our skill is, what we can find what we're good at, and then not only just use it for something mundane, but attach it to something that's all the more good. If I can use my skill, for example, if I'm just doing data entry all day, I can do data entry for something that's making somebody else a profit, or I can do data entry for something that is somehow contributing to a good cause, right? So even if something that's not my calling in life, I'm assuming no one's calling here is data entry. If it's something that's not your calling, if you're doing something mundane, even something mundane can be attached to something meaningful, right? What'd you say? How? Let's say you're doing data entry for I don't know, some kind of Jewish outreach organization, okay?
Saying, let's say you already have a job doing data entry for some corporation. Can you turn that turn that into something meaningful?
Well, you could in another way, right? If this is going to bring in money in order to support your family, and your family is doing good, holy, wonderful things, so then you can look at it that way. It's a means that is attached to the ends. But we get lost when there's no ends attached to our means, right? So for example, in Jewish law, you're not allowed to give an employer is not allowed to give an employee meaningless work, right? It can't be like, oh, for fun today, here, take this little stool and move it from here to there. He moves it from here to there. Okay, now take that stool, move it back to over here. Why? I don't know, I'm paying you. Go ahead, do what I say.
That's halacha?
It's Jewish law, yeah.
So what if the employer doesn't want to tell the employee the reason? So
That's
the
something
employee
different, okay.
feels meaningless.
Whatever, there can be things that are confidential.
You and Hashem.
That's true. That's what you have to. In the end, like you're asked, that could be done if the employer needs. The employer doesn't have to do that. It doesn't have to give every explanation to every.
The employee feels the same regardless.
Well, the point is that the employee has to work on himself or herself in order to make it meaningful.
So like
Right.
the halacha to not give your employee meaningless labor, is that so the employee doesn't feel like you're doing meaningless labor, or just for the employer not to do it?
Let's start with the employer.
Employee can't really say no.
Employee can always say no.
You might be out of
Employee can walk. It might be out of the job. You're right.
You must have power over yourself.
Right. So. All right. Where were we? Questions, by the way, on anything we're saying here. I feel like some people are fading out on us here.
But he has a question.
Yes, Shalom. Who are you?
Just ask.
I honestly forgot what it was.
Yeah, just ask.
Well,
Come on, Yedid.
do you know who you are, though?
It's something. It's like
Yedid.
something you said so
Yeah,
like,
No, you just said
fire
it.
in the conversation.
No,
Ask
you
it.
just said it. How
Yeah,
you
no,
said how
ask
the
it,
ends
please.
don't justify the means.
We're
but
dying
like
to
he
hear it.
was like had a question about that. How?
I'm too shy.
Ed, get it, please. Please, Yedid.
Sounds like this guy needs another glass of wine.
It does. Drink what I just gave you. Drink what I just gave you. Come on, my friend, ask it.
Wait, did we settle on the ends?
I know, we try to find more.
Yeah, he had a
No, we
question
said
about
sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Rabbi Zimmer, why?
It wasn't too. It's not black and white. It depends on circumstances. It depends on what those means. What those means are.
You said something like, and maybe this is what you're referring to. We get lost when we don't have an end to the means.
That was later.
Was that not the way you were saying?
That was later. No, I know what you're talking about. I said sometimes though. So sometimes the ends justify the means. Depends what the situation is.
Yeah.
I remember I don't know the exact quote or situation, but it was either Maimonides or somewhere some commentary on the Zohar that said there's no situation where the ends justify the means. Because then you could modify your reasoning to say okay in my situation this moral qualm, maybe the ends do justify the means, and then you really know whether what you're doing is.
Let me give you an example where the ends justify the means according to Jewish law. Let me give you a simple example. The thing is, I think what you're saying and what I'm saying can fit together. It's just we have to interpret it correctly, right? Because what that means to say is that it's included within Jewish law or Jewish tradition, is included the capacity for prioritization, right? So, for example, imagine there's an idea in Judaism: Jews should keep Shabbat, right? There's also idea in Judaism that you should save somebody's life, right? If there's someone's in a life death situation, you should save their life, right? What if those two come into conflict?
Break shadows to save someone's life.
Okay, so you're supposed to break Shabbat in order to save someone else's life, right? That's a situation where you can either call it the ends that justify the means, or you can say that's within Jewish law. You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? So it could be easily both true. Just semantics.
Huh.
Fair? Cool. All right. Next. Everybody okay? You good?
No, I think
Alright.
I think he hasn't had enough
Pick your
yet.
poison.
Yeah, because we need to clarify
Alright.
what you say.
We want you to remember that you were here.
I know.
He's not gonna remember this. He's not gonna remember this.
Yeah, if you remember, then he'll
Fill her up. One more? Does she want more?
When did she go here?
Alright, we're running out. Alright, you're fine. Okay, here we go.
For real.
Okay. Where are we at on this paper?
We are right now up to here.
Okay.
Right on the top of Chavtet, or actually it's really the bottom of Chavhei.
I know, but she owns me.
Ukishalomed, yeah. Okay, my friends, here we go.
Far away.
Ukishalomed. And so when a person learns, listen to this one. Orly, you're going to like this one.
Where are we right now?
We are on the bottom of Chavhei, which is actually where it says Ukishalomed. Ukishalomed. Okay, when a person learns, when a person's involved in Torah learning or Jewish growth or whatever, a person needs to take a break every while, every hour he says here, but every little while, in order to just take a step back and just realign himself or herself, that like to be focused on the reality that like I'm connected to God right now, right? And by the way, there is a meditation in Judaism, in Jewish traditions, to be conscious of like to like imagine a beam. We're not going to go into the whole meditation now, but like this beam coming down from above, like you can't, if you looked up, you couldn't see the end of it coming down and engulfing you externally and also internally, right? But there's a longer story about this.
Like the thought of awakening yourself, basically.
Not sure what you mean. What do you mean by awakening?
Spiritual awakening.
I mean, the point is that there should be the point, right? It's the idea of like a direct connection. It's the idea that like God is keeping you alive at every moment. He's your context. He's your context. He's your essence, and it's like pulsating and alive with you at every moment.
Do you know of the artist in Zvat named Avraham? I don't know his last name.
Avram Lowenthal, yeah.
Yes.
I know
yeah.
exactly.
Let me guess. He's amazing. Okay,
That was exactly what it was.
so yes, I do know him a little bit.
I never know.
So
Exactly.
Oh.
yeah. Okay. Go back. So maybe you were there and you don't remember.
That's what it was.
Isn't that? Why did you slip on those stairs? Okay, so those stairs have been there for thousands of years. They
You're
didn't
not gonna
move.
beat them.
I don't know, maybe. They're, okay, so getting back here. So the idea is that a person should be conscious, right? I mean, so it means a person should be conscious, right? Because what could happen? A person could get lost, so to speak, in the person could get engulfed in the learning, which is great, but you also kind of don't want to lose that kind of God consciousness and God clarity and all of that. So there's this idea of like being this, always there's this idea of this balance, which I like to sometimes call the spiritual schizophrenia of the Jew, which is on the one hand to be involved, on the other hand to be in taking a step back at the same time, right? So like we're supposed to be involved in the physical world, but not engrossed by the physical world, right? So we're supposed to be constantly aware of God, but we also have to be going ahead and doing stuff, right, in the world. So We're kind of like what's called in the Kabbalistic sources Ratzo V'Shav, running and returning. Okay. So that means involved in stuff, but then also return to reality of Hashem. Okay. So fine, we'll skip the rest of this Chavtes. Let's go to here's another idea of consciousness. Right? Another idea of consciousness. One of my faves. Okay, Lamed on the bottom here. Ready? Lamed on the bottom says like this. Beit Alimud, during when learning, or even when a person's not learning really. Kishemidaber tzarich shelo lachshov machshava acheret. Okay, so it means to say when a person's involved in conversation, when a person's involved in speaking, when a person's involved in their day, when a person's involved in doing whatever they're doing, again, like I was just saying, on the one hand to be involved, but also to also have consciousness outside of that story, right? To also be recognizing something bigger in that picture, right? By the way, the more we do this and the more we come into this practice, the more we are recognizing that whatever our little circumstance is at this particular time isn't such a big deal, right? We get so caught up in the moment. We get so caught up in what does this person say to me? How's this person treating me? Are they giving me the honor that I think they should be giving me? Or are they talking trash about me? What do they say about my friend? What do they say about whatever I'm wearing? You know, and we get so into this. But the more we're able to take a step back from it, we realize that like there's bigger things in the world than this particular instance, this particular person, this particular moment, this particular circumstance. As they say by King David or King Solomon, Gamze Yavor, this too shall pass, and to not get caught in the moment and become a bigger person, right? And so the more we're involved in this, and this is also a concept of meditation, is when we're able to kind of recognize that we exist beyond whatever we're feeling in that in any particular moment, right? So you can, for example, a person could take some time and go through what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and also physically what they're feeling, right? And a person can experience those feelings, but then also let them kind of pass by, right? And so when a person does this kind of experience, or when a person is involved in this kind of meditative practice, so a person is separating themselves from the feeling, but that means to say that there's a them that exists beyond the feeling, and the truth is, even the opposite would be a better way to say it, is that the feeling exists outside of them. And so the feeling that you're feeling does not encompass who you are. So for example, have you ever heard a person say, "I'm angry"?
Yeah.
Really? I could have sworn your name was Sammy. Now you're telling me you're angry. Right? So what's the idea? The idea is that like you're not angry. Oh, you're feeling anger right now? Okay. Or anger's coming up for you, is like they like to say it in the conscious whatever world or whatever, right? Okay. So however you want to say it, right? But the point is that notice there's a big difference in those semantics right there. And a person who regulates themselves to speak this way, hopefully really to feel this way and to recognize this, so that person's going to be able to live another level of existence. That means that yes, a person might get caught up in anger at a particular moment, but they're going to be much quicker to get out of anger, right? Because at first a person can be in a mood, but if a person's in a mood for a long time, that becomes a personality, right? And that's not where you want to go, right? And then you can also, a lot of times you can trace it all the way back to a particular event, but like instead of being locked into that event and owned by that event, or owned by those types of events, a bigger person is able to get outside of that. And instead of just using the words, "I'm triggered" as an excuse for everything in your life, right, you can actually go ahead and be a bigger person and not owned by that quote-unquote particular trigger, and you can actually take a step back from that and then hopefully unhook some of those triggers and like know what you say isn't going to own me, right, is not going to determine my mood. Right, like Stephen Covey says in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that the measure of a person is the amount of space they're able to put between stimulus and response, right? Because the smaller the person, the smaller the space between stimulus and response. Does that make sense? That means your stimulus is going to cause my response, so then you own me by what you say, and I'm basically a computer program. No. There's nothing. We don't respect people like that. By the way, just look at other people in your life that you have in your life like this. You respect those people? No. That little 5-year-old, you have to walk around on like as if you're walking around on eggshells. What is it called? That's that phrase. Walking around on eggshells in order to not because if you say the wrong thing, they're gonna react like that. You know what I mean? And it's just like you don't respect that person. You tolerate them. Maybe you have to tolerate them sometimes in your life, but you think that them like they have the maturity of a 5-year-old, right? So instead of that, instead of playing the victimhood card and mentality, which is really just a matter of smallness and immaturity, be able to unhook those things, to be able to become bigger people, to be able to not be affected by these things, makes us much bigger people and makes us a safer place also for other people who are looking for help and security, etc. Because they know you're a big person. They know no matter what you do doesn't mean that it's going to knock you off your rails, right? Which actually I just spoke about today in the WhatsApp thing I sent out. If anyone's on the Hasidus Daily WhatsApp that I send, so we spoke about that actually today. We'll take everyone's info later tonight, and we'll add anyone who wants to be added in. No charge. So, questions, thoughts, ideas. A hush comes over the crowd.
Awesome.
A hush comes over the crowd.
Processing.
Processing,
I'm
yes.
processing. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what's going on in my head right now.
Okay, cool. Do what you gotta do, man. Do what you gotta do. Take deep breaths. Inhale, exhale for longer than you inhale. Do the whole thing.
Is there
What's up? More wine. You're good.
Asking for more wine, you're good.
Yeah, but there's
Who are you people? Shalom. Welcome back. Remind me, I'm sorry. Oh yes, okay, good.
I'm on your WhatsApp. I love it.
Awesome, thank God. And you sent people, I remember, they took a picture of you, right? Wait, that was you?
Yeah, no, that was your first for Shabbos.
Yeah, you sent people for Shabbos.
Yeah.
And they're bread. I said, bread who? And they took a picture of you. Right, okay, I remember.
How was
And
that?
wait, so what?
How was that?
I think great. Great. Simcha and? Oh, have you been here before too, you guys?
so rude. Is it true you can go if you've been to Israel or go to Greece?
All right, other thoughts, questions, ideas before we cut the Facebook Live? Fine, we're cutting it. See you guys. Okay, now we can talk about the real stuff, guys. I'm just kidding. Bye.